The engine coughs to life on its own at 2 in the morning. James Whitaker wakes to the sound, a dry rattle that should be impossible for a truck with no key in the ignition, and a battery he swears is dead. The night air is cold and sharp with sage and dust. Coyotes fall silent on the ridge. In the yard, moonlight lays a sheet of steel over the hood of a sun-bleached pickup, an old Ford that has not moved since the farm changed hands. It idles like a smoker clearing his throat. Then it dies. Silence punches the darkness flat. He pulls on his boots without socks, feeling the grit inside them, the softness of worn leather against bare heels. Floorboards creak in the farmhouse like the shoulders of a tired man. A single bulb over the sink burns a warm, faint orange. He doesn't touch the switch. He crosses the kitchen, slides the back door open, and steps into the yard that smells like diesel and wet dirt, though it hasn't rained in weeks. The truck waits by the barn, a 1960s body with a dented fender and the ghost of a company logo on the door, some faded white script he can't make out. He found it here 3 days ago, parked crooked beside a hayrake and a tower of rust. It belonged, like everything else, to the uncle he barely knew, the man whose will said one impossible word beside James's name: farm. Now the Ford stares at him with empty, reflective eyes. He reaches the laddered grill and lays a palm to the hood. Cold. Too cold for a motor that was just running. He lifts the hood. No heat, no ticking metal. The radiator wears the kind of dust that takes a year to settle. The battery posts are corroded green. The key ring that should hang from the steering column is missing, snapped clean off long ago. But there's a smell, steel and old oil and something sweeter, cedar shavings, that shouldn't be here. James climbs into the cab. The bench seat crunches, mouse nests crumbling beneath the upholstery. He breathes through his mouth. The wheel is stickier than it should be, as if the truck sweats in the dark. He reaches down where a key would be by habit only, then stops. The dash holds a different invitation. The radio, original, big-buttoned and blunt, glows faintly as if a firefly lives behind the panel. He hasn't touched the dial. It isn't plugged to any power he recognizes. Still, a low whisper leaks from the speaker, numbers soft as breath. 9, 21, 4, 9. He jerks back and smacks his head on the window frame. The whisper dies. The glow goes out. In the sudden silence, the barn sways inside his peripheral vision and straightens again. Wind? No, the wind has been dead for hours. A bark cracks the quiet. Cole, the black and white stray that adopted him on day 1, stands rigid on the back stoop, head tilted, ears pricked. The dog refuses to come closer, as if the truck throws a shadow you can't see. James kills the night with a laugh he doesn't feel. Weather radio, he tells himself. Skip frequencies, tropospheric something. He gets out. He shuts the door. The latch makes a soft metal kiss. The dash light glows again. He freezes. A new sound. A slow, subterranean clink beneath the truck, like a chain settling on steel. He kneels, presses a palm to the gravel, and peers under. The moon slides along the chassis, a silver seam. There, behind the crossmember, a rectangle that doesn't belong to any pickup he's ever seen. A metal box, flush-mounted to the frame, edges beveled, painted the same tired blue as the body. No bolts visible, no weld seams either. It is as if the truck was born with a secret belly. He slides farther under and finds something else, carved into the cross rail, almost polished by time. 3 letters over and over, stamped by hand. WHR. He runs a finger over one set and feels what the eye misses. The faintest groove of a 4th letter washed nearly flat. WHRL. The L hides in the metal like a breath that never leaves the lungs. Cole barks again. Short. Anxious. A light blooms across the field, white and high like a search beam. It sweeps the barn roof, the silo, the truck, then dies. 100 yards away, at the fence line where the cottonwoods lean, something clicks. The sound of a camera shutter or a gate latch? He can't tell. The radio whispers one last number so soft he can't be sure he hears it. 2. Then everything goes black. James is breathing hard now without moving. He slides out from under the truck, dust sticking to his sweat. He stares at the cab, at the door with faded script, and sees it for the first time as something other than junk. The script resolves, letters folding out of the rust. Whittaker and Harper Rural Logistics. He reads the name again, tasting it like a memory he's not sure belongs to him at all. Somewhere beyond the fence, a truck door thumps shut. Cole growls. James whispers to the night, to himself, to the empty house with its single warm bulb. What did you carry? The old Ford offers no answer, but the dirt around it holds the shape of fresh tires that were not there yesterday. Morning arrives late on land like this, where the valley floor holds the cold like a bowl. Frost films the trough. The sky is a low lid of pewter. James moves through the kitchen, making coffee he can't afford to waste. The house carries the ghosts of lives built for two and whittled down to one. 2 chairs at a table, but only one with a cushion. 2 mugs in the cabinet, but only one clean. He lives thrifty because there isn't another way. He inherited more debt than furniture. Back taxes, liens, the accountant's careful paper voice reminding him that the word farm can mean anchor when the numbers don't float. Before this, he worked nights unloading trucks behind a grocery store, the kind of steady, anonymous work that wears out the back and leaves the mind too quiet. He took the call from a lawyer named Lawrence Hughes on a Tuesday between pallets of bottled water. Your uncle passed. No known children. Your name is in the will. He came the same week because there wasn't anywhere else worth going, and the house met him with a smell like old weather and clean wood. The barn complained when he opened it. The fields lay down, waiting. The name on the mailbox read, Whittaker, but it felt like a stranger's coat. He did what poor people do. Counted the winter feed, counted the gallons in the tank, counted the hours he could trade to fix what he couldn't afford to pay for. On the first day, Rebecca Harper, who runs the diner in town and knows every story, brought a hot dish wrapped in a towel and 2 sets of rumors. Your uncle kept to himself, and there's a developer out of county trying to buy everything cheap. She talked fast, kind eyes looking straight at the facts. Folks say the ground is tired, she said, but tired ground wakes up if someone listens. She put the dish on the counter, petted Cole like they were old friends, and left him with a phone number he didn't call. In daylight, the truck looks less haunted and more human, the kind of machine that outlives expectations with dignity. Flecks of sky blue paint cling to the door, stubborn as lichen. The faded script, Whittaker and Harper Rural Logistics, makes a shape in his chest that feels like a door cracking open. James never knew his family ran anything that sounded like a business. Maybe his uncle once had a partner. Maybe the farm hauled more than hay. He runs a thumb along the curve of the letters and picks rust from under his nail. He drags a charger from the shop. The battery clamps bite. The gauge needle lifts a little, as if waking from a long nap. He waits, breath fogging the air in front of him. Cole circles the truck, nose low, tail stiff, the way dogs read the past from the ground. The charger hums. James cross-checks the wiring like a man trying to believe in simple explanations. The lawyer had left a folder with the will, a tax sheet, a map that looks hand-drawn, fence lines in ink, small X's at the corners near the creek. The folder also held a letter, short and spare, in a hand that leaned forward like a man walking into wind. James, if you come, bring patience. If you don't, forgive the trouble. There are things I should have said when your mother was alive. Ask Rebecca. She knows the other half of the name on the truck. Whatever you hear, remember this. You carry your grandmother's mercy. It will be needed. Arthur. He read it 3 times the night he arrived, the words making a fire of a kind that warms and doesn't burn. He stuffed it back in the folder and slept on the floor anyway because the bed smelled like someone else's dreams. He hits the starter. Nothing. Then a cough. Then the slow grind of pistons trying to remember their job. The truck does not start, which is, for a rational world, a relief. He unclips the charger and feels something else. A vibration under the floor of the cab, far back, like a cat's purr in the frame. He slides underneath and finds the mystery again. That flush-mounted box hugging the chassis like a second skin. The radio is dark. The night's whisper doesn't repeat. The tire tracks he saw are faint in daylight, but they are there. A shallow twin path curling to the cottonwoods and out to the road. He didn't make them. He hears gravel crunch at the driveway and stands, dust on his palms, heart speeding. A black SUV ambles in like it owns the place. The engine shuts off with a smug little shiver. Out steps a man in a gray coat tailored to a city road, not a farm lane. He is not from here. He walks like he expects the ground to move out of his way. The smile he brings is a business transaction. Mr. Whittaker, he says, offering a handshake that lands like a bill. Raymond Holt. I represent Steel Ridge Development. My condolences. James does not say thank you. He wipes his hands on his jeans first. We're not selling. Raymond's smile doesn't dent. We've bought 6 parcels on Whittaker Road already. Your uncle's place sits like a puzzle piece we're missing. We can make you whole, pay off the back taxes, give you a clean exit. It's a generous offer, especially for acreage with limited water rights and a structure that doesn't meet code. He glances at the truck like he's checking the time on a cheap watch. And we'll haul the junk for free. Cole stands between them, silent, a muscle in fur. James says nothing. His silence is not anger. It's calculation pressed into the shape of politeness. Raymond slides a card from the inside pocket of that gray coat. The card is thick enough to stop a small caliber bullet. Think about it. The county can be unfriendly about arrears. He tips his chin toward the farmhouse, toward everything. Deadlines make decisions for us. I'd hate that for you. He leaves in a cloud of dust that tastes like pennies. James turns the card over. The print is embossed, the phone number heavy as a trap. He drops it into the trash and hears it land with a papery thud that sounds too loud in an empty kitchen. He returns to the yard and stares at the truck. The dash is dark. The box under the frame is mute. But in the seam between the seat and the backrest, his fingers catch a sliver of leather. He pulls. A journal slides out like a tongue. Brown, cracked, edges swollen from sweat and weather. On the first page, in the same hand as the letter, Whittaker and Harper, Dispatch Book, 1968. He swallows. He sits on the fender. He opens to the middle. Columns of dates, routes, weights. Beside certain entries, small marks. A dot, a dash, a circle, and a line that reads, WHRL, Box 4, cleared, delivered to West Fence, night run, no stoplights. WHRL, the letters stamped in steel, the letters in ink, the letters that do not mean anything to him yet, but will not leave him alone. He turns another page and sees a simple map of the farm drawn in pencil, a rectangle for the house, a square for the barn, a crooked line for the creek, and 4 tiny squares along the fence line, each labeled box. He looks up. The cottonwoods sway though the wind is still. If you're watching this as a story, this is the place we say, stay with me. If you like stories that begin with an impossible engine and end with a choice, you'll want to see how this plays. Subscribe, leave a comment telling us where you're watching from, and tell me, what do you think WHRL stands for? Because right now, James is about to find out the hard way. He brings a socket set, a crowbar, and a patience he doesn't feel. Cole trots beside him as they cross the yard to the west fence, the one that leans as if the earth is exhaling beneath it. The map in the dispatch book is crude, but it anchors his steps. At the first fence post, a fat old cedar-trimmed square, he kneels and brushes away the habit of weeds. The dirt here is different, softer, as if it's been turned, not by moles or roots, but by careful hands. He digs. The shovel bites and comes up with clay dark as coffee grounds. A foot down, metal knocks metal. He clears a lid the size of a bread loaf, painted blue long ago and now the color of rain. There's no lock, just a seam and a latch with a hole for a seal. No seal. When he lifts the lid, a smell climbs into the air. Cedar again, resinous and bright. Inside rests a box wrapped in waxed canvas, tight as a gift from a time when gifts were practical. He lifts it and feels the weight like a promise. He carries it to the tailgate of the old Ford and lays it there like a newborn. Cole sits, head cocked, eyes flicking from box to man. Together they listen to the quiet that has a pulse. James unstraps the canvas and opens the inner lid. The first thing he sees is a ledger, familiar hand, tighter script. Beneath it, rows of smaller tins, each with a stamp. WHRL 1, WHRL 2, WHRL 3. He takes one tin out. It's heavier than it looks. He pries it open with the tip of the crowbar and finds that his breath leaves him before he knows he's exhaled. Inside are paper certificates sealed in plastic sleeves, bearer bonds, U.S. Treasury, dates that belong to a war that never fully ended in the towns it fed, denominations that tilt the world. His hands shake. He closes the tin, slides it back, and forces his mind to hold steady. He opens the ledger. The pages reduce chaos to columns. Issued, carried, delivered, concealed. The last entry reads, Inventory, 4 frame boxes in vehicle, 1 ground cache at West Fence. Box 4, do not move until signal from H. He turns a page and stops at a photograph stapled to the paper. A grainy black and white shot of the truck itself, brand new, parked beside a loading dock with Whittaker and Harper clean as a prayer across the door. 2 men stand in front, his uncle on the left, younger by half, and on the right a man he doesn't know, tall, shoulders like a promise, a smile that doesn't reach his eyes. On the reverse, someone has written, Arthur plus Robert Hayes, driver, 1968. WHRL, Robert Hayes. The name rings a wrong bell. In town, Robert Hayes wears a badge. Sheriff Hayes is older now, the type who shapes law around a memory of what it should be. Is he the same man? Or a father with the same name? James's chest tightens with the knowledge that secrets breed in families like drought. He looks back down into the box. Beneath the tin sits a radio the size of a shoebox, military surplus by the look. Olive drab, a hand crank stowed on the side, a label stamped in block letters. Receiver, transmitter, portable. On its face, a row of numbers. 921492. The night's whispers had spoken the same sequence. The ground shifts under him. Not physically, more like a sense that the page he stands on in his life turns of its own accord. He's been poor long enough to understand that wealth can be poison. He looks toward the road. The cottonwoods stand sentinel. The light is good. Anyone could see him from the highway. He closes the lid. He wraps the canvas. He slides the box back into the earth and covers it, tamping the dirt with a flat palm. Not yet, he tells himself. Not here. He returns to the barn and shuts the big door. The dust floats in long shafts. He sets the crowbar down and hears tires on gravel again. He peeks through a knothole and sees the same black SUV drifting in, this time without pretense. Two men ride with Raymond, Melvin Craig with shoulders squeezed by a suit that thinks it's tougher than it is, and Warren Steele, the name behind the company, looking like he'd rather be anywhere else but money won't let him leave. Raymond does not knock. He calls, "Mr. Whitaker, we should talk." He stays silent. Cole presses into his leg. "You've had visitors," Raymond continues, voice sliding along the boards. "County Assessor, Sheriff Hayes, a widow named Rebecca Harper. It's remarkable how interesting a neglected farm can become when paper moves hands." James steps into the light because hiding gives men like this permission. "You trespass easy." Raymond's smile folds. "You've uncovered something that doesn't belong to you. How could you know that unless you've been digging where you shouldn't?" Warren clears his throat. It sounds like a man swallowing a secret. "We have a history with Whitaker land," he says. "I'd prefer this to end with signatures, not sirens." "History?" James says. Raymond's eyes skim the truck, the barn door, the dirt under James's nails. A shipment went missing a lifetime ago. Old paper with new value. Some men never stopped looking. Don't let their persistence become your problem. Cole growls low. Raymond's gaze flits to the dog and back, unblinking. "Tomorrow morning the county posts a notice on your door. Back taxes plus penalties. You'll have 30 days. We'll be there on day 31 with a check. Or with a crew." He turns to leave, then glances at the Ford again. "Nice truck. You should put it back where you found it." After they go, the barn feels smaller. James lowers the door's crossbar and leans on it until his shoulders shake with a kind of laughter that tastes like iron. The ledger's weight in his pocket says this is not madness. It's math. He drives into town in his own battered sedan and finds Rebecca pouring coffee into white mugs at the diner that seems to run on caffeine and worry. He waits for the lunch rush to thin, then sets the dispatch book on the counter. She reads the cover and goes still, color leaving her face like a tide. "I thought this died with your uncle," she says. "I thought we were young. We thought we were building something good. Deliveries for the county. Relief runs." Then, she taps the letters, WHRL. Rural Logistics was the name on the paperwork, but the men who financed it, they had another phrase. Warehouse route line. Money in, favors out. Your uncle wanted out. He tried to bury the past. I helped him where I could. She opens to the photograph and touches the edge. "That's not Sheriff Hayes," she says softly. "That's his older brother, Robert. He drove the night the bonds disappeared. He never came home." "Bonds," James says, the word dry and foreign in his mouth. She nods. A wartime program left a trail of paper no one could redeem without the right signatures. Greedy men collected, honest men carried. Somewhere in between, things got lost. She looks at him. And some men never stopped searching. Raymond's father was one of them. The diner door opens and the bell rings. Sheriff Robert Hayes, the younger one, steps in, hat in hand, scanning the room the way men do when they know they bring the weather with them. His eyes land on the book on the counter. He pauses. "Afternoon," he says. And in that word, James hears three possibilities. Help, warning, or both. "Walk with me," Sheriff Hayes says. They step out into the thin winter light. The courthouse clock across the street ticks just loud enough to be imagined. Cole waits by the sedan. leash looped over the mirror, giving the sheriff the kind of look good dogs reserve for men who might be danger. Hayes is careful with his words. My brother drove for your uncle. He was proud of honest work. He did not come home after a run marked WHRL. The men who wanted what was carried came to our door with questions. My father answered with a shotgun and regret. I wear this badge like armor. Sometimes it fits. Sometimes it's a story I tell myself. James opens the dispatch book to the map. There are caches on the property. One is open. He doesn't say what he found. The sheriff doesn't ask, which tells James more than any question. Raymond Holt won't stop, Hayes says. He thinks the ledger will make him whole for things his father failed to steal. He thinks debt is a form of destiny. He kicks a pebble into the gutter. Steel Ridge wants your land for the highway spur. Holt wants the past for the feeling he gets when he owns someone. What do I do? James asks. The simplest and hardest sentence he's spoken in a long time. Document. Don't move what you found. Not yet. Let me make calls. To Treasury. To a federal agent who owes my father a favor. Hayes meets his eyes. And don't be alone out there tonight. Back at the farm, the light dies the way it always does in winter. Quick, decisive, color draining from sky to dirt. James closes the barn and locks the door, then takes the long way around to the west fence where his shovel healed the earth. He kneels and presses his palm to the soil. It holds the faintest heat, as if what he returned to the ground still breathes. Cole paces, not liking this kind of stillness. He hears a hum that isn't wind, not the charger, not the radio. He turns and sees the truck's dash glow through the barn slats. Faint, urgent. He opens the door, climbs in and finds the radio awake with numbers again. But the sequence has changed. 9, 21, 4, 9, 2, 7, 7. He writes the digits on his palm with a marker, the ink soaking fast. The hand crank on the side of the olive radio begs to be touched. He gives it a quarter turn. The sound sharpens, and beneath the numbers a second voice hides, too low to understand, a murmur like heat over asphalt. He slides under the truck with a wrench. The flush-mounted box has no obvious purchase, but the bevel hides a trick. A tiny hole at the corner the size of a pencil lead. He feeds in a small L-shaped pick he finds taped under the dash, something his uncle planned for a man following him, and the lid clicks. He lowers it carefully. Inside sits a nest of wire, a sealed battery the size of a brick, a switch with 3 positions, and a single label. Frame box 1. Armed. Armed. He stops. He does not touch the switch. Cole whines. Headlights wash the far wall of the barn. Not his. Not the sheriff's sedan. Push broom light, high and wide. Mouth of a machine that thinks it's a shark. The engine note is expensive. It idles on the driveway. Doors don't slam. Men step carefully when they believe they own the night. James closes the frame box, slides into the shadows between the Ford and the hay baler, and waits. The barn door's hasp clicks. Boots on concrete. 3 men, by the rhythm. Raymond's voice arrives first. Keep it quiet. He's got a dog. Cole growls soft, then falls silent on a hand command James didn't know he'd taught. Take the book, Raymond says. Take the boxes if you see any. Leave him a mess and a reason to call me tomorrow. Paper flutters. A shelf scrapes. A chain clinks. Deliberate, like punctuation. James moves along the truck's flank, hands looking for answers faster than his head can shape questions. He finds a lever bolted to the floor behind the bench, small as the trigger on a toy. He pulls it. Somewhere in the frame, a relay snaps. The radio's glow deepens. The numbers change again, then freeze. Cole lunges once, silent, precise. The crash of an upended crate covers the sound. A curse spits. Dog. Melvin snarls. Something hard smashes the wall. James has lived poor long enough to value exits. He leads Cole to the side door, but it's padlocked from the outside. He slides back behind the Ford, heart in his throat, and knocks his shoulder against the lever by accident. Another relay snaps. The truck's dome light flickers. Beneath the floor, a hum climbs in pitch. Not loud, but stern, like a line drawn on a map. Raymond steps near the truck and presses his palms to the hood. It's here, he says. He leans in the open window to rifle the dash. His cufflinks flash in the radio's light. Where'd you hide the key, Whitaker? His voice fills the cab. It smells like cologne and calculation. James's fingers find the hand crank on the olive radio. He gives it a slow turn. The hum in the frame deepens. The radio stutters. then speaks in plain English for the first time, in a woman's clipped, decades-old voice. Framebox armed. Authorized route initiated. West fence delivery. Raymond jerks back, startled. Melvin laughs. A toy, he says. A spook radio for farmers. The floor under them vibrates once. A short cough of force. A section of the barn floor, 10 feet by 6, drops 3 inches with a shudder, revealing a narrow tunnel braced with timbers. Cold air breathes up from the dark. The Ford sits with its rear wheels squarely over the edge like a stopper in a bottle. Trap, Warren whispers, not mocking now. James doesn't think. He moves. He kicks the lever down, grabs Cole's collar, and dives behind the grain hopper as the barn lights go out. Night pours in. A slit of moon carves silver down the tunnel's throat. Raymond curses. Melvin advances 3 steps and finds the edge with his shin. He pitches forward, catches himself on raw knuckles, and spits blood. You set this? Raymond demands. James keeps silent. He can barely hear his own pulse for the ringing in his ears. Get the truck back, Raymond orders. That hole goes somewhere I don't like. Warren fumbles for his phone, finds no service, and looks suddenly small in his expensive shoes. James counts to 3, then to 5, then to 3 again. He pulls the lever halfway. The frame box hum fades. The floor plate rises the height of a coin and stops as if waiting for a password. The radio repeats the phrase, authorized route initiated, west fence delivery. The numbers on its face blink. 921-49277, 921-49277. He whispers them without meaning to. The lever clicks under his palm, and the floor returns to level with a sigh like wood remembering its first shape. Raymond's breath comes back fast and ugly. He swears and rushes the driver's side door with a pry bar. Cole launches out of the dark and takes Melvin behind the knee. The big man collapses with a shout. Raymond turns with the bar, heavy and mean, and James steps in without invitation. Poor men learn to fight only when they must. He plants his fist in the soft beneath Raymond's ribs and hears air leave him with a sound like a debt forgiven. The pry bar clatters. Warren backpedals and finds the tunnel edge again, pinwheels once and sits down hard, dignity cracking. Headlights rake the cracks between the boards. A siren yelps once as if clearing its throat. The barn door flashes blue and red. Sheriff Hayes's voice arrives like a bridge built in one breath. Hands where I can see them. What follows happens fast, then slow, then fast again, because danger does not care for clocks. Raymond straightens, pulls his coat into place and raises his hands, smile reassembled. Sheriff, he says, like a man greeting a waiter who will bring an inevitable check. We came to discuss a matter of title. Hayes swings the door wide and steps in, sidearm held low but ready. Behind him stands Walter Davis, the tow operator with a conscience and a stack of receipts to prove it, and Clifford Bennett, a federal agent whose suit is government grade, hardy, a little off in the shoulders. Clifford flashes a badge that catches the radio's strange light. Department of the Treasury, he says, which makes the room rearrange itself around him. On your knees, Mr. Holt, Hayes says, calm as a barometer. Raymond obeys with the grace of a man writing an IOU he intends to collect later. Melvin wheezes through dog teeth, both hands high, one leg red at the calf where Cole's good sense left an opinion. Warren hovers on the edge of the tunnel, palms trembling like papers in an open window. Clifford takes in the truck, the hole in the floor, the radio's glow, the ledger on the shelf, the men, the dog. He nods toward the Ford. So this is the mule. James hears the word and knows it fits, in a way that fills a blank. The truck was built to carry more than feed. It was engineered in the simplest, smartest way to turn ground into a courier. WHRL wasn't a company. It was a route. A route that used the truck to trigger platforms in hidden barns to lower and raise caches under cover of night. No hands seen, no eyes witness. Clifford steps to the radio and reads the line of numbers. He doesn't touch it. Your uncle had help, he says to James. Men who needed paper moved without questions, and men who hated the men who needed it. Someone inside a program wanted the bonds to vanish until the right signatures could meet them again. He looks at Hayes. Your brother wasn't a thief, Sheriff, he was a courier. Someone chased him. He likely stashed the last of the bonds and meant to circle back. Men like Holt's father arrived first. Raymond smiles without teeth. That story will play well on a screen, he says. But a story is not proof. Clifford points at the ledger. Proof smells like old glue. It writes in pencil when ink is too proud. It has names and dates and weights. He kneels at the tunnel's edge and shines a small light downward. The beam catches a ribbed metal pipe, a cable, a set of iron rungs leading into the earth, and sometimes it lives under the floor. Why now? James asks, voice small because the truth is big. Why wake up now? Clifford shrugs. Batteries die, timers fail, and sometimes grief brings people home to where switches wait. Hayes cuffs Melvin and Warren. Walter collects the pry bar like a man who doesn't like leaving tools on the ground. Raymond stays very still. You'll have to prove chain of custody, he says. You'll have to prove anything you touch doesn't belong to us. Funny thing about bearer bonds, Clifford says. They belong to whoever bears them until a court looks and says otherwise. Funny thing about trespass, too. The radio's voice cuts across the room again, sharp this time, startling them all. Awaiting route confirmation. West fence delivery. The numbers blink twice more, then hold. Clifford tilts his head. It's asking for a code only the original operator knew. James looks at his palm. Inked digits sweaty but legible. He feels foolish and then brave. 9214927, he says. Nothing happens. He says it again, slow. The radio remains a stone. Rebecca's voice comes from the barn door, breathless. She has run here. She holds an envelope like it might bite. It's not numbers, she says. It's dates. She crosses to the truck and taps the ledger's page where a route is circled in red pencil. September 21st, April 9th, February 7th, July 7th, 921, 49, 27, 77. Arthur told me, she says to James, eyes bright with old pain dredged clean. He said if it ever had to be finished, the truck would remember the days it was most itself. Clifford nods once like a man hearing a harmony click into place. Try the lever with each date, he says. James pulls the lever to the first detent. The floor trembles. He pulls again. The platform eases down, smooth now, revealing the tunnel mouth as a throat ready to speak. A faint breeze lifts the hair on his forearms. He lowers the platform all the way. The radio's light steadies. Clifford shines his beam and steps onto the iron rungs. Stay with me, he tells Hayes. Walter rigs a line because men like him are brave enough to be careful. They descend, leaving Rebecca and James topside with the dog and 3 cuffed men and the hum of a machine that bridged generations. Minutes stretch, voices echo, metal rings, then a shout rises like a flare. Bingo! Clifford calls, joy and sorrow braided. He comes up first with a small steel canister, sealed and stamped, perfect twin to the tin in the ground cache. He sets it on the tailgate beside the ledger. Hayes emerges carrying another, face wet with something that might be sweat and might be the past leaving his skin. He meets James's eyes, and in that look, a decade of unasked questions close quietly. Raymond sees the inevitable and makes a last choice badly. He bolts for the open door. Cole launches after him with a bark that peels paint. Raymond clears the threshold and nearly reaches the SUV before Walter, faster than a man his size should be, hooks an arm and folds him to the gravel. Handcuffs click. The siren outside finally speaks in full voice and the farm listens. Clifford lays a hand on the old truck's fender like a man blessing a faithful animal. We'll catalog everything. You'll sign some forms. A judge will sit in a tall chair and declare a story true. He looks to Rebecca and then to James. There will be a reward. Treasury pays when lost paper finds the right table. And the county will look differently at a man who hands them the law wrapped in its own history. James nods because words are unavailable. The barn smells like cedar and dust and end of winter. Cole sits with regal pride, tongue lolling, as if he planned it all. Dawn comes softer, as if the valley wants to apologize. News spreads the way it does in small places. Fast, embellished, then surprisingly accurate by noon. The county posts a different notice on the farmhouse door. Lean satisfied. The taxman shakes James's hand in the driveway, a man unaccustomed to gratitude. The developer's trucks don't return. Raymond Holt is arraigned 2 days later under a list of charges stiff enough to make his father's ghost sit down. Melvin Craig pleads to lesser counts and discovers that community service looks a lot like real work. Warren Steele turns state's witness and learns the difference between having money and having a future. The Treasury stores the bonds in a vault that smells like ozone and paper. After the judge declares the chain unbroken, a portion of recovered value returns to the estate as a reward. It is not movie money. It is better. Clean. It pays the arrears. It repairs the roof. It buys seed and a second-hand tractor that doesn't need a prayer to start. It replaces one pane in the kitchen window that a boy cracked with a baseball 40 years ago, and a man told himself he would fix when he wasn't so tired. James keeps the truck. He does not repaint it. He sands the worst of the rust and lets the rest live. He seals the frame box and runs a clean line to a safe battery that answers only to him. He learns the lever's language until muscle remembers what mind forgets. He closes the tunnel, seals it with timber and honest dirt, records its location in a new ledger that starts with today's date. He writes at the top, Whittaker and Harper, Revival. Rebecca comes by on Sundays with coffee and a sandwich wrapped in wax paper. They don't talk about what could be. They talk about fence posts and the creek's habit of wandering in spring and which field wakes first when the sun shifts north. Sheriff Hayes stops in sometimes, hat in hand still, and stands with James by the cottonwoods where the ground cache sleeps again, empty now and content. They speak of Robert, of a brother who carried something heavy and kept it safe with the only tools he had, a wheel, a night road, an oath. The sheriff does not say thank you because some gratitude sits too deep for a word that small. Walter brings a tow bill marked, paid in full with a smile like relief. Clifford sends a letter on stark paper, inviting James to testify to how honest men hide things so they can be found by other honest men later. James reads it twice and decides to stay home. He tells the law the truth in writing and lets the farm be its own witness. Spring comes, and with it green so loud it startles him some mornings. The fields do not care about the drama that woke them. They care about rain and the way a hand knows when to quit squeezing. He plants. He fixes the fence at the west line where the posts lean like old men visiting. He lets Cole chase sparrows and sleep in the doorway where shadows are cool. He learns the shape of quiet that is earned, not imposed. On a still evening, he drives the Ford to the top of the north field. The engine settles into a low, contented rhythm. The radio is dark, obedient now. He parks, steps out, and watches the valley think about dusk. The mountains hold gold in their ribs. The creek writes silver lines in the pasture. Far down the road, the diner's neon flickers into its own kind of sunset. He speaks aloud to the man he never truly knew. Arthur, you built a thing that didn't make you rich and didn't leave you clean, but it kept a promise. I'm trying to do the same. Cole leans against his leg, solid as a fence post. He doesn't believe in signs most days. But as the sun drops, a west wind lifts and runs fingers through the cottonwoods, and the leaves answer with a sound like applause. He laughs, small and private, the kind that leaves the face gentler when it goes. Here is what he learns finally in a language that doesn't need ink. The past is a truck built with secret compartments. It carries what you put in it, hurt, hope, debt, mercy, and one day when a hand you love or barely remember finds the right lever, the floor lowers, and what you hid rises into light. On that day, courage isn't big, it's ordinary. It looks like a man choosing to do the clean thing in a dirty room. So James lets mercy ride up front. He stores the hurt where it can't rattle. He keeps the map to the places where work still needs doing. He drives the long way home sometimes just to remind the road he's not afraid of it anymore. If the story carried you this far, there's more where it came from. Click to watch the next one. Another tale pulled from the quiet corners of forgotten places. Subscribe, tell us where you're watching from, and if you've ever had an old machine keep a promise for you, write that in the comments. We're building a convoy here, of faith, of courage, of loyalty, and there's always room in the back for one more good story.